This is the Mazda CX80. It's the bigger brother of the CX60 and it gives buyers the option of a 6 or 7 seat SUV. It will retain the same powertrain lineup as before, so you have an option of a diesel or a more efficient plug-in hybrid. At the front, you see it's got a very distinctive face, including this very large black grille. It's surrounded by chrome. There's a lot of nice details in how they've done the headlights. They're now a stacked unit, same as on the CX60, and you just see the indicator and daytime running light is made just in there. It makes it a very neat design, really lets it stand out on the road. But one of the other things that I really like about this is this artisan red color which they've introduced. Obviously there's going to be some other usual colors that we see, but some of them might be a little bit strong. This is a bit more subtle, but it looks really sharp, quite sophisticated, and you can imagine this thing in the sun, just how much it will pick up that difference in bodywork shapes between the light areas and the dark areas. Now, speaking of bodywork, this is effectively the same sort of shape overall as before, but they've extended the wheelbase here by about 250 millimeters, so almost a foot longer. And that really goes between the front wheels and the rear wheels. You've got a slightly longer door, makes it much easier to get in and out of the rear seats. The design of the 20-inch wheels has slightly been changed as well. It's still got that machine face front, but inside the inserts are now a dark grey. Looks really well in comparison to the black that you get on the CX60. Now, I mentioned there's two different engine options with this, and you can see it on the side with this detail on the front wing on both cars. This is the plug-in hybrid, so it says PHEV, but if you go for the diesel, it will say inline 6, and it's a really easy way to identify exactly which engine this has. The plug-in hybrid uses a 2.5 litre 4-cylinder petrol engine paired with a 17.8 kilowatt-hour battery. In total, it's got 327 horsepower and 500 newton meters, and that battery gives it a 53 kilometer electric range. Overall consumption is just 2 litres per 100 kilometers, and the emissions are 44 grams per kilometer. With the diesel, it's slightly different. It's got a 3.3 litre inline 6 engine that produces 254 horsepower, 550 newton meters, and uses a combined 5.7 litres per 100 kilometers of fuel. The emissions are 151 grams per kilometer, and it has a mild hybrid boost that uses a 12.4 kilowatt electric motor paired with a 0.33 kilowatt hour battery, and that gives it an impressive 153 newton meter boost onto the crank. Now, there's some other details as well, like this chrome bright work all around the windows. I do like the way they've added this ever so subtle little kink there, just the way it drops down. And the reason they do that is to make this rear window as large as possible for those sitting in the third row of seats. From behind, it doesn't really look all that different as before. It is quite nice how they've managed to kind of shape the roofline here. There isn't actually a very protruding spoiler here either, which is also quite interesting. You've got these nice wide taillights here again. These really kind of emphasize the width of the car. On this version, there's no visible tailpipes either, so the exhausts are not visible on this. But of course, this has to be a practical car, and it does manage to do that. Even with all 3 seat rows in place, you still get 250 litres, and I really like that when you lift this up, there's also a storage place solution for that tonneau cover as well, which is great because often you take these out and you've got to stash them in the garage or hide them somewhere. It's great that you can fit that in diagonally, and there's still extra space underneath as well. Lots of different shapes are available there, which is very useful. One thing you also get with this plug-in hybrid is, as well as the usual sort of 12-volt power socket that you get in the boot, they've utilized the extra energy that you have from that plug-in hybrid. So this also has an AC power outlet with a 230 volt socket, and that it offers up to 1500 watts of power. Great if you want to use a cooler box, you want to plug in, maybe charge an e-scooter, maybe you're out and about somewhere and you want to use that extra energy. It's great to have that option. Now, if you need to fold down the rear seats, it's very easy to do. Just pull this first, the headrest pops down, and do it once more, and you can slide that down, and you've 657 litres of space when both of these seats are folded down, which is actually pretty useful. And you also get a nice flat load level as well. If you need even more space, you can also then fold down the middle row seats, and that will give you up to 1,971 litres of storage space. Now, there's a couple of different options available for the CX80 as well. But first of all, look how far this door opens. It's almost to 90 degrees, which is great. It gives you loads of space for getting inside. Speaking of which, this particular version is set up for the 6-seat and it has the center console, but you can also have an option without the center console, or if you want to have a more conventional setup, there's a 7-seat option that uses a straight bench in the rear that offers up to 7 seats, and that can also slide forward and back by up to 120 millimeters. Now, in the rear, it is actually very spacious. You do sit quite up nice and high. You've got a good visibility out the front because these front seats are actually quite wide, so you can really get a good view of the road in front. And you also have this large panoramic glass roof. It's almost a full square meter. Lets loads of light in here, and obviously it's great to be able to open that in the summertime. Now, the center console option is quite a nice feature. It's definitely a little bit more luxurious, but it is quite useful. You've got a pair of cup holders here. You've got some nice armrests. You've got a little bit of extra storage, so you can open up and stow more items in there. And obviously you get ventilation in the back here as well. So you've got heated and cooled seats. You can also adjust all the climate control. There's 2 USB-C charge ports, and there's also 2 USB charge ports for the rear. So everybody in this car will be able to charge their devices as they wish. But there's also quite a lot of room in general. I like that these front seats are raised, so I can get my feet in underneath the seat in front. If I do want to stretch out, you can obviously adjust the rear seat as well, so you can adjust the angle of the rear seat. And you've got pretty big windows as well. And if you want a little bit of extra privacy, you've also got these blinds as well. Now, when it comes to getting into the rear, tilt and fold those seats forward. You've got a little handy handrail here for getting in, and there you go, like so. You can bring this, slide it back, and an adult will be able to comfortably sit in here in the third row. For reference, I'm around about 5'9", so I'm pretty average height. I'm not the tallest, but I can sit in here pretty comfortably. I have a little bit more headroom here, so that's not too bad. My feet are sitting a little bit raised up, obviously, so it's not quite as comfortable as being in the forward rows, but I do also then have cup holders back here. As I said earlier, there's USB charge ports back here as well, so both people here can still charge their devices as well. And officially, Mazda says these seats are good for people of up to 1.7 meters in height. So adults will be able to do it in a short journey. Kids will have no issue being comfortable back here. Here on the inside, the CX80 reflects the same layout and design as the CX60, and that's no bad thing. The layout is pretty good, but it's the quality that really impresses, and I think that's the one thing you might be surprised if you go and sit into this. The quality of the materials and the look of the materials, it really is second to none. This is a proper premium interior. Just look at some of the detailing here across this and the stitching. Really nice details, really leans into a lot of that traditional Japanese craftsmanship, and that's what Mazda is really trying to do with this car. The seats are very nice. They've got this kind of nice detailing in through the center. You've got a nice wide center console here as well. Obviously there's plenty of space here underneath, so you've got some storage, and there's also a pair of cup holders here. You've got a wireless charging as well, so if you want to have your mobile device topped up, you can do that without having cables strewn around the cabin. Another thing I really quite like about this is Mazda has stuck with physical buttons and physical controls for things that you're going to adjust all the time. Your heated seats, your heated steering wheel, your temperature controls, they're all very easy to do at the touch of a button. And that's great because it means you can do this without ever taking your eyes off the road. And it really adds to the safety of this car. But there's a lot of other interesting safety features. For example, this has a driver positioning system set up whereby you can input your height into the car's infotainment system, and it will then use a forward-facing camera to work out where your eyes are and can adjust both the steering wheel, the seats, and the door mirrors to be in the optimum position to make sure you're comfortable when you're driving. That's a really useful feature. It sounds a little bit of a gimmick, but when you do it, it does help make sure that you're in the best driving position possible in the CX80. There's a couple of other interesting features as well. That driver monitoring system that I mentioned also ties in as one of the safety systems in this car. Not only can it detect to make sure that you're paying attention with the road in front, if you have the adaptive cruise control on, and let's say you're unfortunate enough to have some kind of a medical incident or an emergency and you lose consciousness, it can detect that immediately. It will try and alert you, perhaps if you've maybe dozed off or gotten drowsy, and if you don't respond, it will then safely slow the car down in its lane, put on the hazards, bring the car to a stop, and unlock the car so that those emergency services can access you as quickly as possible. It's one of those features you hope you'll never want to use, but it's great that it does have that. Other than that though, safety aside, it does have all the latest infotainment system you might want. It's got Android Auto and Apple CarPlay smartphone mirroring, and you've also got Alexa from Amazon as well to use all the voice control systems you might want. It's also got Amazon's digital voice assistant on board. Hey Alexa, what's the weather going to be like today?
Right now in Oberursel, it's 5 degrees Celsius with mostly cloudy skies. Today's forecast has cloudy skies, with a high of 9 degrees and a low of 2 degrees.
Well, that's our first look at the new Mazda CX80. It will arrive towards the end of 2024 and it offers a great alternative for people who need that extra third row of seats in the back. If you want to know more about this, head over to our website. It's CompleteCar.ie. You'll find it linked in the description below, and it's a great resource for finding your next new car. But we'd also love to know what you think about the CX80, so do get involved in the comments below. Tell us what you think, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.